I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me.
Welcome, everyone, to District Divided, a DC sports podcast, more specifically, a Washington Commanders podcast. I am Amit, that is KDot, and today is a new day. Today is a very, very joyous day. It is, depending on when you start your calendar, day one of the rebuild, if you will. Adam Peters was already named our general manager in the past, but today was the introductory press conference, and so KDot and I both saw it. We're going to break it down for you guys, just the fan perspective on it. And yeah, we're just very excited to get into it. KDot, how are you doing today, sir?
I am doing well amongst mitigating circumstances like this fisheye lens camera that you're coming in from.
I still think this looks quite nice. Your backdrop
I
looks
paid
quite
too
nice.
much money for the other camera. It's coming back, and stop complimenting this.
Well, quality is quality. What else can I say? But without further ado, why don't we go ahead and get into it, guys? And as we do, if you could please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, comment as you always do. We have the comment mailbag at the end. And KDot,
Share this shit.
please share this shit. It means a whole lot to us. We officially hit 500 subscribers. Thank you guys so much for subscribing. Really means a lot to us. May that continue to grow, and may we grow that family, that District Divided family together. So, but let's get to what you're here for. Adam Peters was introduced today at 2 p.m. It began with Josh Harris introducing Adam Peters to us, and then Adam Peters opened with his introductory remarks. And then those were the thank yous. I'd like to thank the following people for being with me, for being, a part of my journey, etc. We'd like to open it up to some questions. And there were some very, very good questions. We're pretty blessed, KDot, to have some awesome members of sports media over here. To me, 100%. Adam Peters played it pretty close to the vest. I think he was very careful about answering certain questions. What did you make of it? And then we'll get into some of the nitty gritty as we go through this conversation together, KDot.
So my number one takeaway, above all else, and you guys might criticize me for this, but Josh Harris drinks water really weird. Have you seen the way he holds a water bottle? And then outside of that, he's always clearing his throat. What's happening there? Give him a lozenge. Jesus Christ. You're a billionaire, son. Now, outside of those things, great initial impressions, right? Great initial impressions. I think for the longest time here in Washington, there has been this own of like, we want transparency because of all the shenanigans and bullshit that was happening. And we just want to know what's happening, what's going on, right? Because it's usually nonsense. But I think that there is an element of, I like not knowing everything or what all the plan is. As long as the guys in charge have a plan that they could stick to. And knowing Adam Peters, knowing the history of the teams that he's been on, knowing the professionals that he's been around, those are usually some really close-knit organizations that you don't get leaks and you don't get a lot of bull crap. And to me, this press conference, as far as breathing that energy into it, just felt good. There are adults here that are going to act like adults. That's what it feels like. And that bar has been so low for so long.
And so what I want to add to that, because you talk about adults in the room, something Josh Harris said, and he actually came across to me as quite personable, which was, we've come a long way from that awkward handshake with Joe Buck in the studio preseason. So it was cool to see Josh Harris a bit more relaxed now, knowing his guys are officially coming into the building. One of the things Josh Harris had mentioned, and it was in reference to one of the questions asked, he said, hey, Adam Peters and I, we are both of the mindset and agreement that we are stewards of the city. You talk about how different that is from the Dan Snyder days. Craig Hoffman on X or Twitter, whatever you choose to call it these days, had mentioned one subtle thing that I didn't notice until I read this tweet, which is that he wasn't addressed as Mr. Harris, it was Josh. So all of a sudden there's a level of familiarity there as well. So it's clearly a partnership and working for the city to deliver excellence, to restore and rebuild the franchise. I thought was an excellent point there, KDot, that I wanted to point out. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think it's worth mentioning. I think the Dan Snyder thing was, hey, look at this manufactured story about how much of a fan he was, and he's one of you, and then proceed to act in all of the which ways in which he would always let you know, I don't think I'm one of you. I'm definitely not one of you. You guys suck. You're here to make me money, and that's it. Where Josh Harrison feels as though in everything he's doing so far, and like hasn't been a lot so far. The jury's still way, way, way out. But the idea is it feels as though when we hear him say it or try to be personal, try to be one of us, or try to be here knowing what it is that we're going through, that feels good. It doesn't feel as though we're on the opposite ends of this thing anymore.
Right. And one of the things that Adam Peters had mentioned, because one of the big questions, KDot, was why did you leave San Francisco? Right. So when we did the, little introduction into Adam Peters in the deep dive last episode, we talked about how he's from the Bay Area, how he was moving up in that 49ers organization, how if they continued to promote John Lynch, that general manager position could just be his right there. So why did he leave? And he cited, hey, there is a great ownership group here. They are committed to excellence. They are committed to bringing in the right people and developing a first-class organization. Now, if you've heard the term first-class organization before, if you're a bit of an NFL nerd like I am, or like KDot would be, you hear that a lot with the San Francisco 49ers. When he was thanking people from the San Francisco 49ers organization, when you think about the ownership group that has existed with the Yorks and Eddie DeBartolo Jr. before that, Bill Walsh, they would always talk about how the 49ers are first class. It was cool to hear our franchise mentioned as aspiring to be first class, building towards that. So it's not just the product on the field, it's off the field. We are looking to become a first class organization, KDot. He mentioned that we have the right people here, or willing to bring in the right people here. And so ownership, once again, we're hammering that home, right? It's no longer Dan Snyder. It's Josh Harris. It's Mitchell Rales. It's Mark Ein. It's Magic Johnson. Adults in the room. It's very exciting to be considered soon to be a first class organization, KDot.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we all aspire to be here, especially with all these years of just frustration and everything being for naught, right? So like the thing is that when you think about like what's so hard rung for me in a lot of these things is to think about, and I know everybody knows it, like who was on the coaching staff here, who was already here in the front offices, right? Like even if you look at some of the front office candidates, you're looking at the Atlanta Falcons is known as having a great front office. One of the guys there is Kyle Smith. Right. Was one of our guys, right? Then you look at all the success. We spent all weekend watching this fucking crazy wild card weekend.
Which we'll get into later. In the Mailbag.
But the idea that you see guys like Bobby Slowik out there just doing shit up, that there's San Francisco and what it is. Like there are so many guys having so much success that have been here at certain points. And you wonder like, hey, did we screw it up by not elevating the right talent or anything, this, that, and the other? No, I think what we need to realize is that because of, and I know this word has almost got a dirty sense to it now because of the way it's been taught to, but because the culture here has been so freaking toxic, I don't care who you had in this building, it was never going to work. The thing is that the only time you ever got close to it working was Joe Gibbs 2.0, right? In that sense of what you go to playoffs 2 out of 3 years. And the only reason Joe Gibbs works is that Joe Gibbs has enough cachet that he can be the head guy in a room, and Dan Snyder will even relent with that because it's Joe Gibbs. So what are you going to do?
This is so perfect because it transitions into the head coaching search. And so he was asked, well, when you think about building a roster, constructing a roster, what do you do? And the very first thing he did was deflect that and go, well, the first thing we're doing here is bringing in a head coach that aligns with our vision. And Josh Harris would then mention the three of us are going to have an aligned vision. So that's ownership. It's all we've talked about, KDot, as fans for the longest time. Ownership, general manager, head coach, all being aligned on a vision. It seems very clear that that's going to happen, or at least they're going to try and make that happen, which is already a breath of fresh air. So
usually
then one of the things that they mentioned, so they said, what sort of characteristics, what sort of qualities are you looking for from a head coach? And you just hit the nail on the head with Joe Gibbs, leadership. He kept talking about the importance of leadership. And he even said, hey, we have some wonderful people in this building, but we need to bring leaders around them. We need to supply leadership to them. And in talking about the head coach, a leader of men, and being able to build something together. So leadership, just to your point, KDot, I just wanted to throw that in there.
No, you're 100% right. And it's something you even talked about last week when talking about Adam Peters and what it is that he learned from Kyle Shanahan, being able to articulate the type of guy that he wants. One of the other reasons that Adam Peters left San Francisco that won't necessarily get talked about is that he pretty much went as far as he's going to go there. So like there's been so much more money they could just add on to him. He's not going to leapfrog over John Lynch. And
Unless
really,
they did the promotion bit, but it seems like it wasn't in the cards quick enough.
right. And there's been so many executive titles you can give John Lynch to
Right.
elevate beyond where he's at right now. Not to mention the dude who's the final say in San Francisco among all other people is Kyle Shanahan. He's the final say. That's why if you look at like the Trey Lance thing, that's going to be something Kyle Shanahan was the main guy for. And that's what you want. You want a GM that knows how to construct a roster and be able to have the conversations with a head coach that knows what he wants. Because it's the only way that it works, right? The players are on the field and they're the ones that are going to get the shit done. But in order to work for whatever scheme you're running, whatever system you're running, what the just the aura, the leadership mentality of the team has to be led by what it is that's in the mind of that head coach. And then beyond that, you have a GM that can supplement that and find the right guys that'll fit that mold. Guys that the head coach might not even. The head coach is busy head coaching. He can't be out there scouting all the players. He can't be out there looking at. That's what your GM is for, is there to facilitate and to work together, not have the stories that come out and say, well, ownership wanted this guy, but the GM wanted this guy, but the.
And to that point, KDot, funnily enough, what a smooth conversation right now. And to that point, and this is the part where I was like, oh, KDot just went 6 to midnight. Josh Harris mentioned, and I quote, long-term sustainable elite winning. And I knew wherever you were, I was like, he's going to need to change his pants real quick, because that is exactly what KDot's been talking about this entire time. You combine first class with that quote, oh my Lord, from ownership as well. And then talking about how the head coach is not just going to be a leader, but have a high football IQ. Also be interested in building the Washington Commanders. There's a bit of a hint at a geographic component, KDot, where they may look at people who care a lot about this area. It's not just an offensive-minded coach with the trends or just a defensive-minded coach. Maybe it leans towards Mike Macdonald. He's familiar with the DMV area. I don't know. They still need to interview any number of candidates. But that in particular, Kate, I just wanted to mention the long-term, sustainable elite winning. It was like, they're listening to District Divided, KDot.
I hope so. So like that's the thing is that like I look, I'm not equating anything I've ever done in my life to what it is they do running an organization, right? But the one thing I have done professionally is I train managers, and I was a trainer myself of a lot of people, and it was usually in sales. And the thing is that when you're looking across all these salespeople and you're trying to get the best out of the team that you have, right? The number one thing to know among all other things, the first question I ask is, why are you here? You got to know your why, right? What is it that buys you in, and I can get the maximum amount for you? And I think that's what you have as far as any culture or any organization really wants it. Some guys want to prove that they're the smartest. Some guys want to win everything. Some guys want to do it because it's a team that they give a shit about. Like, you've got to figure that out. You got to know that. You got to be able to tap into it. And I think that when you hear these guys, you hear Josh Harris, it feels as though even without having to say much, which once again, that's important because he did mention communication being an extremely important aspect of it.
Yes,
but even without saying much, you get the vibe that we want the same thing. Our reasons for wanting it might be different, but we want the same thing. And when you get that, you feel that energy, when it starts gelling, everybody's. That feels good. When you remove the ego, the mission is the only thing. What we want to accomplish is the only thing. That, to me, is when you get into something really, really special. And if you really think about it, the way that like San Francisco has constructed their team, to me, speaks to it among all other things. The fact that you can get those talent from those late rounds and this, that, and the other, and they work their asses off. Like, I got a list of players that they drafted after round 3 that are all huge contributors.
Floor is yours. Go for it.
George Kittle, DJ Jones, DJ Reed, Dre Greenlaw, Juwan Jennings, Diamador Lenore, Hufanga, Elijah Mitchell, Brock Purdy, Purdy. Everybody knows.
Isn't Fred Warner in that list as well, I want to say?
I think so. But trust me, I just stopped.
List goes on and on.
Like, that's the thing, is like they find those guys. It's the video that went viral a few days ago was in the war room with Sean McVay when they are looking at the Puka Nacua.
Yeah.
And when you say, no, that's our guy. We need that guy. And that's, you start feeling it. And it's the same with, like, when it's all about a Patriot way, a Raven way, a Steelers way. You know it when you see it, you can feel it. And as long as the guys in the front office feel that vibe, that's just Woo!
Absolutely. It goes back to Kyle Shanahan being very deliberate and precise with requirements, being very
Yep.
clear with what he wants. And I do suspect, and it wasn't mentioned this time, but it was in that Athletic article, I do suspect we are going to look for that quality in our head coach and making sure that vision is clear and aligned across
Mhm.
the board. On the subject of roster construction, because he was asked point blank, what do you think of the current roster? To which he, and if you're watching on YouTube versus Spotify, this is basically what he did. We have some cornerstone pieces. We have a lot of work to do, basically. And I
Yeah.
hopefully did justice to that. But it was a very funny moment where it was like, we appreciate your answer there because that's probably what's happened. Now, what he did say is that it is going to be collaborative with the head coach and that it's going to involve the personnel department. It's going to involve analytics. It's going to involve R&D. I was like, we've got an R&D department. I did not know that, first of all. Secondly, they definitely do in San Francisco because he cited that. I was like, oh, the all pros make a lot of sense. Now you draft them, you run them through R&D, all of a sudden they're ready to roll immediately. It's unbelievable. But those are going to be the areas that, you know, are going to have input and then molding the roster as well. So you're going to hear about some analytics. You are going to be hopefully aligned with your head coach, which I believe we will be, personnel department, the R&D department. Okay. So that's all there, KDot.
Yeah, I mean, shit. The other quote as we're talking about roster building is when he said, "Ultimately, we built through the draft to supplement through free agency." To me, if that's the cornerstone of your roster building, I'm all here for it. And if you're also looking at a team with this plethora of draft picks, I mean, I don't know if I want to read too much into that quote. Like, if I read that quote, I'm like, all right, well, that
We're trading
probably doesn't
down.
mean you're
No,
trading
got
up,
it.
right? Right.
Yeah.
But the idea is when you see the list of players that San Francisco had, that they drafted all different sort of rounds that are contributing members of that team. When you think about the offensive coordinators or defense coordinator, whoever's available to be a potential head coaching candidate, and especially like some of the top names, when you look at what Ben Johnson's been able to do in Detroit with those guys, a bunch of unheralded dudes for the most part, and they're all kind of gelling together. A mix of journeyman veterans, Jared Goffs, and your
Yep.
young dudes. The you look at Bobby Slowik and what he's able to do with CJ Stroud. Once again, an anomaly, but what you're able to see what they can do with that, or what your offense core can do by lining your fucking quarterback up under center and not going shotgun run all the goddamn time.
Shout out Green Bay Packers. Yeah.
Right. So when you see all the success and stuff, and you start seeing, okay, this is a dude that comes from the Shanahan tree. You got this. We've got good reason to be hopeful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, like you, just to reiterate it one more time, we are building through the draft, supplementing through free agency. He was very, very clear about that. That was one of the last things he had mentioned. And then they wrapped up the press conference. So expect that, hey, those draft picks, all 9 of them, you can expect some sort of production next year because he also said this, and this was in reference to San Francisco, his early days over there, the first couple of years. A quick synopsis again on his resume. Started out in New England from 2003 to 2008 as a scout. Then he moved to Denver where he got a promotion, was still in the scouting world, but eventually became the VP of college scouting, assistant college scouting, excuse me, and then the
Has three
director of
Super
college
Bowls at
scouting.
that point.
Yeah, exactly. Although I must mention again that the first 2, he was 20, 21, driving people to the airport. His words. But yes, that is true. Whether it is true.
Kind of not out of my.
That's where he meets John Lynch, VP of Player Personnel, San Francisco, assistant GM. Here he is now, general manager. But he was asked about those first couple of years in San Francisco. Hey, slow start, 4 wins. What can we expect? And so he answered, and I'm going to read the direct quote here. You can't put timetables on it, but what I can tell you is that you're going to see great competitors. You're going to see a physical team. You're going to be really impressed with what you see on the field, and it's going to happen right away. Whether results come right away, that's a number of different factors. But you guys are going to be very proud of the team we put on the field. So plenty of reason for optimism moving forward. That was Adam Peters to just about wrap up the press conference. Any final thoughts, Kate, before we move to the comment mailbag?
I'm stoked, man. Like, once again, we're still very early on this thing. We still have the head coach to hire, offense, all the coaching staff to fill, the rest of the front office to shake out exactly the way that Adam Peters wants to do. But I think that once again, there's like hope is something that I don't think you should feel guilty for having right now. It's okay. Yeah, and absolutely. The idea that things are going to be anywhere close to what they used to be here under the last regime I think we're seeing it today, even with that press conferences, where is it for him to hold a water bottle. This feels very different than what it is we had before, and anything different than what we had before is good.
Yeah. And we anything you've been waiting for this moment for a long time, Commanders fans. I know we have, KDot and myself also. And then all I'd also say is it's nice to have ownership and front office aligned. It's been a while for that too. So people have knocked press conferences out of the park. I think we've learned from that. Now it's what do you do moving forward? And now they're on the clock officially. So without further ado, we go to the comment mailbag, where we'll begin with the Adam Peters related comments, and then we'll get to the playoffs, etc. So beginning with Earl Bruce, shout out Earl. The Commanders got the top rated front office candidate. Be still, my beating heart. This is the first step of the turnaround process. Cowboys, Eagles, and Giants beware. Great episode, guys. Really appreciate that comment from you, Earl. Hey, Cowboys, one and done. Eagles, one and done. Giants, Brian Daboll, maybe a prick. We don't know what the heck's going on. There's a whole lot going on, but the NFC East is looking pretty nice. We then
this weekend was terrible for the NFC East overall, other than us. Outside,
Right.
I will say the one point that you brought up, and then Earl just brought up that made me want to articulate it, is that another difference with this hire compared to others is that if you look through the history of the GM or team president hires that we've had, it's been a lot of these guys can't get hired anywhere else, and they owe their entire lives to Dan Snyder, which you end up being his whipping boy. You end up just being an extension of an overreaching owner. You have the hottest candidate that could have gone anywhere he wanted to go. He does not come here unless he's got reassurances that he'll be able to do the job that he was hired to do.
And turn down prior hiring cycles to stay where he was. So staying's an option too. That's super powerful.
Just an accountability standpoint, it's huge, huge difference.
Absolutely. We then go over to the Hawk. Shout out Hawk TV. Popular consensus indicates that majority of the fan base is ecstatic. Time will tell, so I'll reserve my true feelings on the hiring. And fair enough, right? We haven't seen him actually do anything yet, but as Earl had mentioned, top-rated front office candidate. Not every day we get that. In fact, it's been 30 years since we've done something like that. Right. So it is exciting. Then we go over to Tony. Shout out Tony. This is a great hire. We finally have a winner in the front office. Any chance we bring Chase Young back at free agency now? Just kidding. That is Tony's comment over there. KDot, Chase Young, we bringing him back?
I didn't want to go in the first place.
Fair enough. And then we go over to.
But I will say, if you think about the trade as we traded Chase Young for Adam Peters,
good trade.
Get it better.
Good trade. Throw Trent Williams in there
and a draft
actually. Yeah. Okay. Well, and then we go over to Blood Clot. Shout out Blood Clot. Is Josh Harris the Nick Fury of the NFL? Does he need to start wearing an eye patch from this point on? I mean, this is all too early, but Adam Peters was their guy, and they got him in pretty quickly. He's also a GM that doesn't have to kiss up to the owner, or a GM that has to also coach. He's just a GM doing GM things, and that sounds like a huge step into normalcy. I can't wait to hear the next move. And on to the head coaching search we go, KDot. What did you make of that comment? Is he the Nick Fury of the NFL?
Jury's still out, and I'm hoping you're talking about early Nick Fury, not Secret Invasion Nick Fury, because that show was fucking shit.
And then we go over to Justin Evans. Shout out Justin Evans. Questions. How much football tape have you guys watched? I've been watching Jaden Daniels, and I was definitely surprised. The highlights are a bunch of runs and great catches, but on a deeper dive, he really stands tall in the pocket and goes through progressions. He's my QB of choice for the draft. Can trade back and still get him, hopefully. Appreciate the comment there, Justin. So we did a prior episode in one of the After the Pod segments where KDot and I both agree, and at the very least at that time, Jaden Daniels is the guy we want if we are going to draft a quarterback in this class. We will see what ends up happening. We will see what the head coach wants, what the general manager wants. And as all the draft shenanigans and the stories come out and their pro days and all that jazz. But we do love Jaden Daniels here at District Divided. I will say that much, KDot.
I did.
Ooh.
I will say this.
Okay.
I am being much more calm. I'm realizing what's most important for me right now is to keep on this one wavelength that I'm on more than anything, which is to be calm and cool and collected when it comes to these draft picks, and especially quarterback. I think there are too many variables to get all up in arms about one guy.
Mhm.
I think a lot is going to depend on who the offensive coordinator, what it happens.
Oh,
at the
it
head coach
better.
position.
It better depend
So
on that.
to
Yeah, of
me,
course.
you'll see me get excited about a guy depending on who the offensive coordinator is.
Yeah.
Or what the offensive system is supposed to look like. I think
Well, so
that's
then let me rephrase for a moment. I think just purely on what we've seen from a fan perspective, from the talent perspective, from the excitement perspective, Jaden Daniels has checked a lot of boxes for us. Ultimately, I think you and I both want whoever the head coach, general manager, or if they are all aligned on, let's say Drake May, or let's say trading down and getting a tackle, whatever it may be, in Adam we trust. Ultimately,
sort of. I will admit that most of my stuff that I'm having right now is just pure selfishness because of how fucking wrong I was about CJ Stroud. And I don't want to make any predictions at all anymore about quarterbacks.
he has been something else, man. I mean, like you said, an anomaly, historic right now. We then go over to Patriot Clips. Shout out Patriot Clips. Amit nailed it with the Texans Browns game. Yeah, and I appreciate that. But also, this wild card weekend was insane. I mean, we both thought the Cowboys would win, and man, oh man, that was KDot. That was so much fun. I know we talked after the pod about, hey, there is a chance if Dallas loses, Mike McCarthy's gone. If Philly loses, Nick Sirianni could be gone. Bill Belichick could be in the division. Jim Harbaugh could be in the division. But the moment the game kicked off, and I was like, logically, maybe we should have Dallas and Philly win just enough so that they keep their head coaches. The moment the game kicked off, fuck it. These assholes need to lose in the worst way possible. And the way Green Bay took it to them, and the way Tampa Bay just smoked Philly. I mean, could it have gone any better? It was MLK Day. I had the day off. Shout out Martin Luther King. Rest in peace. What a glorious day of media coverage. I figured you'd like that.
You and Pat McAfee, stay away from MLK. Jesus Christ. Stay away. Stay away. That was so weird.
You want me to go to the next comment?
I had something to say to you. What the fuck was that?
I debated not doing it, and then I was like, no, I gotta do it. I gotta see what
I had a bet. God damn it. I was gonna say you talked about me having to change pants. Since the Cowboys game, I haven't worn pants. That's
nice. It's a good bet.
Hey, it's just great. I mean, some keeps trying to poke my chin. Yeah. But beyond that, see, that bit doesn't work after RIP MLK. What the fuck was that?
Yeah, it doesn't. Stole the thunder.
Right.
For better or worse.
But you remember, the Cowboys, we knew they were going to collapse.
Yes, we just didn't know that
we didn't think it was going to be like this.
Right.
Right. And then also the whole young quarterback thing in the playoffs. Here, you can have a team so young and dumb they don't know any better.
You're still laughing.
That's what the Packers deal is. But the Eagles, I told you guys.
Yes, you did.
Jason and Travis Kelce thing, you knew, and you could tell they're in that entire game. They had no shot in hell on winning that game. They were done.
They were, hey, absolutely toast. They have a lot of questions to answer. News could break at any moment that they've let go. I don't know what they're going to do.
They need new coordinators.
Yeah. I mean, that for sure they definitely need. We'll see what they end up doing from there. And then we go over to DJ Turner. Shout out DJ, who historically has been excellent with his picks whenever he's chimed in. I almost threw in a parlay on his picks, and here they were. Vegas will be undefeated, says DJ. Browns. Wrong. Bills. Yes. Chiefs. Okay. Lions. 3-1 over here. Cowboys. Eagles. No. So ended up, again, it was a crazy wild card weekend, and he did add a note on the Lions, which is Detroit will probably win, but Dan Campbell's insane 4th down / 2-point calls will come crashing down at some point this playoffs. That could still happen. Monday night edit. Well, I'm retiring from game picks, but stand by what I said about Dan Campbell, which, hey, there's still plenty of time left, but Detroit's in an unbelievable spot right now where now they host Tampa Bay next round. And from not winning a playoff game for 30 plus years to we could be in the NFC Championship game. Pretty exciting times to be a Detroit Lions fan.
It's fucking awesome. It was the best. That's the thing. As much as it was wild, the games mostly sucked this last weekend. The Detroit LA game was good. And I can't remember a time where I could legitimately find myself rooting for both teams, like equally. Like it
was
like,
fun. It was an objectively
fun.
fun game.
Yeah, it was just that was awesome to see.
I went to Midlands with Ridge, where your helmet at, and it was a lot of fun because it's a Lions bar, and so we wanted to be a part of the the emotional charged environment of all these guys going, oh my gosh, Matt Stafford's back. Are we going to cheer him? Are we going to boo him at the stadium? Stuff like that. It was really, really cool to see their joy. Some people in tears over there. Like, it meant a lot. It meant a lot to Detroit Lions fans. So it was super cool to see that. And good for you, Matt Regan. And then we go over to Vindo. Shout out Vindo. Boys, looking at Jay Gruden and RG3 going back and forth on X is very childish. I'm glad they aren't here anymore. What do y'all think of his tweets? Because they crazy. Well, Vindo, they were crazy. And so for those that don't know, and at this point, I feel like if you're a Commanders fan, you know pretty well what's going on over here. Jalen Hurts was getting hit a whole bunch last night during the Tampa Philly game. And Jay put a tweet out. I don't remember the exact wording, but basically, if I've ever left a QB out to dry on something like this, my apologies. Someone pick up a blitz. To which RG3 goes, I got a couple thoughts here. And goes, say what? And has, of course, RG3, whenever he's got a tweet out, there's a photo of him and it's already in some folder. He
has his own memes.
Where, he does his own memes and stuff like that. And then Jay Gruden goes, you weren't prepared, Rob? And then all of a sudden, RG3 responds with, you know what? You're the one that told me that you didn't know how to coach a quarterback that could throw and run. So I guess you weren't the prepared one. Then Brian Mitchell comes in, tells Jay Gruden to fucking disappear. Like, it was a crazy time, KDot. What did you make of it?
I talk about that toxicity what Washington has, and to me, you have a prime example right there. There is an element of, like, B. Mitch, I don't know if you guys remember, but I sure as hell remember. He was always the ornery guy. I mean, back when it was him and Chick Hernandez on the Comcast Sportsnet, he was always the dude going off everything. So B. Mitch is a curmudgeon, okay? We love him. He's our curmudgeon, but he's a curmudgeon. So he's not going to have anything really positive to say in this one. Anyway, love you still, B. Mitch.
Yeah.
The Jay Gruden shit, look, if both of them can't see how equally responsible they were for the crashing and burning of our team.
That was my exact take.
Like, that to me was the biggest thing. You both share a fuck ton of blame in all this shit. Jay, if you want to get to the nitty gritty on the shit that was happening at Ashburn with you and the stories, trust me, there's some fucking stories about your ass.
It's all there.
Dude, come on. And then RG3, dog, you haven't outright come out and say what we've all been talking about. You're not afraid to talk about anything, but did your dad and you go to management and ask?
Yeah, whatever happened to that tell-all? Remember there was going to be that tell-all? And
right. So, like, look, here's one thing that I've always said. Russell Wilson. No, it's weird I'm bringing him up in this.
Go for it.
To me, Russell Wilson is guilty. Russell Wilson, everybody likes to make fun of him and everything. The only time he's really been a hero outside of the early years of Seattle is this him and Sean Payton thing right now, right? I'm of the idea that if Russell Wilson was white, he would not suffer any of the criticisms he had. People would just say he's a weird white dude. It'd be like Kirk Cousins. Like, you can't be black, dating Ciara, and be that fucking corny. It just doesn't work, okay? RG3. There's a lot of that same energy, okay? And I'm telling you, Robert, you are one tweet away from being completely ostracized from everybody. Watch your fucking step, bro. I'm rooting for you. I love you. But you are one step away. Look, I got personal stories about your ass at Baylor. There's some stories about you even here in Ashburn. You are one tweet away, bud, from being completely ostracized from everything. Watch your fucking step, bro. Watch your step.
Well, we got to leave it where the audience is wanting more. So we're going to wrap it up here. Also, I can barely see. It's District Divided, DC Sports Podcast, more specifically a Washington Commanders podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, comment as you always do. We do love the comment mailbag. We'll do an after the pod next episode. And KDot,
share this shit. Share it.
Please share this shit. We greatly appreciate you guys, and happy Adam Peters Day. Until then, talk to you guys later. See you Friday, 2 p.m. Until then, take it easy.
In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.